Alison Larkin presents A Shameful Murder by Cora Harrison. Read by Rosalyn Landor. Chapter 1. St. Thomas Aquinas. Videtur quod voluntas Dei non sit causa rerum. It can be seen that the will of God is not the cause of things. It was the Reverend Mother Aquinas who found the body of the dead girl. It lay wedged within the gateway to the convent chapel at St. Mary's of the Isle, jettisoned by the floodwaters. For a fanciful moment, she had almost imagined that it was a mermaid swept up from the sea. The long silver gown gleamed beneath the gas lamp, wet as the skin of a salmon, and the streams of soaked curls were red-brown, just like the crinkled carrageen seaweed she had gathered from the windswept beaches of Ballycotton when she was a child. Her heart beating fast, the Reverend Mother unlocked the gate and looked down at the sightless blue eyes that stared up from beneath a wide, high brow, at the blanched, soaked flesh of the cheeks, and knew that there was nothing that she could do for the girl. She bent over, touched the stone-cold face, and then, with a hand that trembled slightly, she signed the forehead with a small cross. The Reverend Mother had seen death many times in her long life, but in the young she still found it was almost unbearable. She straightened up and looked around. There was no one near. She had left the convent hurriedly, gone out into the fog, unable to bear with patience the sanctimonious comments of Sister Mary Immaculate about the floods being the will of God. Reverend Mother Aquinas, like her namesake, the great philosopher Thomas Aquinas, had no belief in the doctrine of the will of God. It was, for her, just an easy way out of excusing man's inhumanity, inefficiency, and lack of social responsibility. These terrible floods would not happen season after season if some of the wealth of the city was spent on preventing them. Sister Mary Immaculate, she thought with irritation, would not have been so quick to trot out the customary platitude about God's will if she, like the families of the children who attended the school of St. Mary's of the Isle, lived in one of those crowded, crumbling buildings, flooded with sewage by the overflowing drains. As always, it was the poor who had suffered. The rich moved to the hills outside the city. Floods were nothing new in Cork. The city had been built on a marsh, crisscrossed by streams, beginning with a small monastic settlement named St. Mary's of the Isle, progressing with the advent of the Vikings to a second island, and then with the Normans to a third. Later the inhabitants linked the Viking and Norman islands with a bridge, and enclosed them with a high wall, forming the medieval city of Cork, perched just above the swamp, edged with a sheltered harbour, and joined to the ocean by the River Lee. The city had become rich, trading its butter, its meat, and its hides from the hinterland with nearby England, and not too distant France and Spain. In the 18th century, the wealthy merchants had tamed the channels of the river with limestone quays, and had built stately homes above basement warehouses, their entrances, like those to medieval castles, placed high above the water with steps leading up from the mooring places. Like a Venice under a great northern sky, the city grew prosperous and ambitious. But unlike in Venice, the merchants were not content with their waterways. They confined the marsh streams into culverts and built wide streets on top of all but two of the river channels. And these two arms of the River Lee, the north and south, still encircled the town, and the water beneath the streets remained part of it. From time to time it escaped, and the city flooded. Dead bodies washed up by the floodwaters were nothing new either. The Reverend Mother sighed as she rang the bell on the gate for the gardener, sent him to fetch Sergeant Patrick Cashman from the barracks, and waited resignedly for Sister Mary Immaculate to pop out to find the reason for the summons. "I was just coming to see you, sister," said the Reverend Mother, as soon as her assistant appeared.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?